morning, good day, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to episode 2 of the Lindsay V Crafts podcast. If you're returning, thank you so much for coming back to hang out with me. And if you are new, welcome, and I hope that you enjoy your stay. I'm coming to you from a somewhat sunny Wells, Maine, as you can see. It seems really bright right now, but the sun has actually been in and out of the clouds, so the light will probably be shifting momentarily. But this is what I've got for the best lighting in the house right now, unfortunately. Or fortunately, our house is surrounded by trees, so we don't get a whole lot of daylight throughout the house. In about an hour or so, this area that I'm sitting in will be pretty dim, so I'm just gonna roll with what we got for right now. I'm drinking a little bit of coffee. I recently discovered a coffee roastery, I guess that's what you call it, called On the Porch. They are based out of Camden, Maine, which is about 2 hours north of where I am. I really like it. I really like their beans. They're wonderful. I ordered online and it comes like the next day because I guess I'm in close enough proximity. But the shipping is really fast. But yeah, that's what I'm drinking. So, also you can find me on the Making app, which is something that I've been using recently, as opposed to only posting on Instagram. My name is Lindsay_B_crafts. And that will be down below in the show notes if you're interested in keeping up with me there. So, what do we have to talk about today? How are you? I hope that you're doing well. I hope everything is going your way, and if not, that you're making it through and know that there's going to be light on the other side of the tunnel. That's something that I have trouble remembering sometimes. My anxiety has been through the roof lately, so if I'm looking a little haggard today, it's because I had a pretty bad panic attack last night and I'm just feeling like a deflated balloon. But today's a new day and onward and upward. I'm happy to be sitting here with you talking about some knitting. So let's get started, I guess. Let's just dive in. I do have a finished object to share with you today, and that is the Sweater Hug by Skeindeer Knits. So as you can see, it is this nice, cozy sweater. It's got some extended ribbing at the top that's kind of like a funnel neck. It has some nice, good ribbing on the sleeves, and then a nice ribbed split hem down at the bottom. I made this in Harrisville Designs, Night Shades. This color is called Talk Radio. And if you can tell, I think the sun kind of picks it up very well. It's a little bit of a marled yarn. So it's a base of black with some purple thrown in there. And I really like the color. It's not like anything else that I have in my wardrobe. So let's talk about, am I happy with this finished object? Well, yes and no. So let me just draw your attention to some sort of mishap that occurred when I was knitting the ribbing. So I did this sleeve first, okay? I knit it to pattern, give or take like 1/4 of an inch. So that's like supposed to be about 4 inches of ribbing here, I believe. Excellent. Done. Go to make the other sleeve. Do the ribbing, count my rows so that I can make it identical. Bind off. And here we have it. So just to compare and contrast, here they are. I know the sun's making it a little difficult to see on the dark yarn, but if you can see this, we have 2 slightly different sizes on those ribbings. This one is a little bit wider than this, which is a little bit narrower. So I'm assuming what happened is that I used different needle sizes for these, which is crazy because I swear I distinctly remember picking up the same exact needle for each of these cuffs. In fact, I even had to steal the needles from one of the projects, which I will be showing you a little later, so that I could finish this sweater. I don't know. I don't understand what happened. The other thing I'm a little bit unhappy with, but it's not anything too terrible, is I kind of botched picking up stitches for the neckline, so it's very holy here. I'm not too worried about it. I plan to do some duplicate stitching over the holes so that it will just kind of close it all up. And that should fix that. And if it really bothers me, I guess I'll just unpick the neckline and do some re-knitting, which is what I'm gonna have to do with the sleeves, because for one thing, not only is one bigger, but it's also longer. And I asked myself, can I live with that? And the answer is no, I cannot. It really bothers me. But I'll put this on. Let's see if I can show you a little bit. Initially it feels a little bit short to me, but where there's so much ribbing at the top and the bottom, I feel as though if I block it, it might relax all of that and make it not so like snug at like the rib seams and give it a little bit of length. In my experience, superwash yarn doesn't tend to grow with blocking. Because of the nature of like it still having the scales on the outside of the wool. But I just think that the rate that, let me try to phrase this again, it doesn't grow as much as superwash, and in my opinion the amount that it does grow is negligible, so I usually don't tend to block a swatch of non-superwash wool because I just prefer to wing it. But anyway, you can see it's a little more apparent now that I'm wearing it how different the cuffs are. The neckline is fairly high in the back here. It's got some short rows, and then this ribbing kind of really snugs it up onto you. See if I can get up. I think I got like peanut butter or something on this by accident, so don't mind the stains. It'll block out. So yeah, it comes down a little bit past my hip here. So yeah, there it is. That's the sweater. It's fairly form-fitting. I think I knit it with it had a range of positive ease recommended, and my size that I knit was on the lower end of that range, so I think I ended up with maybe like 3-ish inches, but maybe I'll get a little bit more out of it when I block it. The yarn feels really nice. It really does feel like a hug. The Harrisville Designs, I believe, is American Cormo, which is, I think it's a blend of Corriedale and Merino. It's something like that. It's some sort of hybrid sheep. So it's very nice. It's very soft. It's like not too prickly. Definitely not as warm as the Peace Fleece that I knit the Trollton out of. Like, that thing is high insulating, let me tell you. Yeah, I'm gonna take this off. Sitting here in direct sunlight in a 100% wool sweater is not necessarily something I want to do today. All right, so that is the sweater hug. I'm medium happy with it, I'd say. I think I will be happier with it once I fix the things that I need to fix, and once I block it and have like a true finished object that I can mentally file away as done. But the other thing I wanted to talk about is where my mind went once I realized that I had done this little error with the sleeves. So I don't know if most people are like this, but I am definitely like this. My first thought when I did this was, wow, am I a bad knitter? Like, am I just not good at this? Because this is my thing. Knitting is my thing. It's like the one thing in my life that I consider myself to be like almost, I wouldn't say expert level, but I know a fair bit about it. It's something I've been doing like almost constantly for the past few years. I've listened to a lot of podcasts and learned from other knitters that way. I've picked up some tips and tricks, you know, and I just feel like I really understand how it works now-ish. Okay, I do. I feel like I understand how it works now. Like I'm paying attention to my gauge. I'm making sure the yarns that I substitute with are fairly okay substitutions, but no, I'm just like, I make one little mistake, which is, you know, human error. I'm not a robot. And it's like, wow, I should just quit. I should just stop knitting. I should go find a new hobby. Like, that is how I felt. And then I started looking at my troll tint sweater and I was like, wow, maybe I screwed this up too. And just for fun, I decided to measure the gauge now that it's like all blocked and I've worn it, and just to see. Turns out I had fewer stitches per inch than I thought that I had, which is resulting in a larger garment. So my gauge was definitely not what I thought it was. I made probably the next size up somehow, but I swear to God, when I checked it as I was knitting, it told me what I wanted to hear. So I can think of no other conclusion other than that those stitches are lying. You whip out that ruler and all of a sudden they crowd together or spread apart and they're like, here you go, here's the answer we know you're looking for. Whether or not it's true, I don't know. I know it's silly, and it really is silly. Like, the garment itself, I am so pleased with. I love my troll tin sweater. I've been wearing it almost religiously since I made it. It's practically my jacket now. It's roomy, yes. It's not as close fitting as I thought it was going to turn out, but do I love it? Heck yes. So what does it matter if my gauge was off? What does it matter if I screwed up on the cuffs of my sweater? It's not the end of the world. Most things in knitting can be fixed and undone once you do them. So why is my first thought to say, wow, I suck and I should quit? So yeah, that's just my talking shit for a little bit. So if this is you as well, you are not a bad knitter, okay? You are, and besides, who says we have to be good at what we like to do? Like, I could be the shittiest knitter in the world, and if it brings me joy, well, then I should still keep doing it. But you're not a bad knitter, okay? People make mistakes, and that's fine. You can fix the mistakes, or if you're happy and you can live with them, you can not fix the mistakes. It doesn't matter. I'm not a bad knitter, and neither are you. All right, so glad to get that off my chest. Let's move on to the next thing, shall we? Perhaps next time I will have an actually finished sweater hug, like finished mentally for me, to show you. All right, put that aside. I have a half finished object. So I joined the Nordic Mitten Club by, you guessed it, Skeindeer Knits, which is a mitten subscription club. So I think it's monthly. Every month you'll get a new pattern for a different type of mitten. So the first mitten is called the Aslaug mitten. And this is a traditional Selbu pattern. The other ones, she says, are going to be drawn from areas of her heritage. So there may be some, I think she said Shetland patterns, maybe Latvians, other things like that. But this one is a Selbu style pattern. So here it is finished. So again, back to that am I a shitty knitter talk. I measured, this isn't blocked yet, but I measured my gauge again. And I even went up a needle size. Like I said I was gonna rip this out last time. I did. I restarted it and I managed to finish it. This actually went by very fast and I loved knitting it. I even did that thing that I've heard you're not supposed to do, holding the yarns in two hands. The reason that I've heard you're not supposed to do it is that because you have a different gauge in each hand depending on which one you're knitting with. Most people do anyway. So you end up knitting essentially with two different gauges. But so what? I do what I want. It's my knitting, and I decided I wanted to use both hands this time. But I digress. So I ended up making, I think, the smallest size. So the way you get different sizes with these mittens is not by adding stitches, but by going up in needle size and playing with your gauge. So I was going for the third biggest size, and I think I ended up with the smallest. It's okay though. I mean, it still fits. It's just a little snug. It's supposed to have about like an inch or so of positive ease, and this, I would say, is 0 or negative ease, which is very unusual for color work because color work typically doesn't stretch. But the yarn that I'm using, which is from the Green Mountain Spinnery, feels as though it is very bouncy. I mean, look at that. That is quite the stretch. So perhaps if I were to block these, I may find that my stitches, those lying stitches, are going to give me a different answer than the one that I measured unblocked. And yes, I know that typically you're supposed to measure your gauge after blocking, but like I said, the amount that super washable grows is typically negligible, so I usually don't bother. And if I want to be a shitty knitter, I can, okay? That's fine. All right. So that's the Aslaug mitten. I will be making the second one eventually, not sure when. So I know that a lot of people have second sock syndrome where they'll make one sock and then procrastinate the other forever. I feel like that's the way mittens are for me, especially when they don't come out how I wanted them to. I'm like, should I bother making a second mitten exactly the same? Sorry, mitten, not knitting. Or should I redo it up a needle size? I don't know. If they end up not being how I want them to, I could just give them away. I'm not really in the habit of giving away my knits. It's something that's hard for me to do unless I knitted with the intention of giving it away. I like to keep them because they're my art, basically. They help me. Does anyone else feel like your knitting is a small scale metaphor for your life? Like, I use my knitting for a lot of things, like for example measuring gauge and not doing swatches. It helps me practice rolling with the punches and not getting too flustered at the small hiccups in my knitting or in life. So I use them in that way, and that's what my knitting is to me. Anyway, let's move on. Boop. All right, so what do I have next for you? Okay, so I have 2 whips for you next. The first one I'm going to show you, excuse me, I had started last time, but I didn't want to show you because I was intending to keep it as a super secret project because they're for my husband. And my big idea was to knit them only when he's not around, and then present them to him on his birthday in November. But I'm really bad at keeping a secret, and I want him to have them as soon as they're done because I'm very excited about them. So without further ado, here is a partially completed snuggle sock. These are by Maxim. I believe he also has a cowl of the same stitch pattern called the Snuggle is Real, and it's also basically the same type of deal. So let me tell you about them. This is a mosaic colorwork pattern, so it is slipped stitches. You're not using 2 colors at the same time. You only knit with 1 strand at a time, alternating which color on a different round. So it's very bumpy. It's very pleasing to my fingers. These are a DK weight. I'm knitting them in the Farmer's Daughter fibers, Juicy DK, and did I show these last time? Yes, I think that I did. I might have. But again, it's Juicy DK. One of these colors is olive oil. I think that's the lighter green here. And then I also have tag here. I might. No, I don't. It's something to do with pines, like a foresty pine green. I'll link it in the show notes. That's fine. Again, I made a little mistake after I did the heel. Instead of restarting the mosaic pattern, I did a few knit rows, which caused just this little stockinette strip here. So I'm just going to try to make sure I make the same mistake on the second one, and he was okay with it, and so am I. It doesn't really matter. Like I said, I can be a shitty knitter if I want to. Nothing has to be perfect. Perfection is overrated, so... I'm really excited to finish the leg and the cuff, because then that means that I get to knit with the lovely Surrey alpaca. I've never knit with Surrey alpaca before. It'll be stranded double. I can't remember what I talked about last time, so I'm just going to potentially reiterate. I'm going to finish knitting this sock in the mosaic pattern, and then instead of binding off, I'm going to switch to the double-stranded Surrey alpaca and essentially knit a second sock and shove it right down inside. So these will be squishy GK alpaca lined socks. They're gonna be so nice. I'm almost kind of jealous. I wish I had a pair for myself, but I guess I can always steal his. So that's that. Hopefully I'll have at least one sock finished by the next time that I talk to y'all. But we'll see. No rush, right? November is a while away. Okay. So that's done. That's talked about. My second WIP I was hoping to have done by like the second week of October, because I'm going to Rhinebeck for the first time. But I don't think that's gonna happen. It's a fingering weight sweater. This is the Breathing Space by Veera Välimäki. She is a Finnish knitwear designer. She does a lot of collaborations with Hoki Locatelli. I'm sure most people have heard of her, but if not, you need to go check out all of her patterns because they're amazing. So yeah, I'm trying to figure out which is the front. I guess it doesn't really matter. So this is what I have so far. I've got most of the yoke done. I need to do a few more stripes before I split for the sleeves. The curling is a little bit making it hard to see, but this is what I have for stripes so far. I'm very excited. I haven't knit like a lot of striped things. The most I've really done is like self-striping sock yarn, that kind of stuff. So let me tell you about the yarn. The main color is the colorway Cormorant by Megs Co. And this is one of her sock bases. I believe it's the 75/25 superwash merino nylon. And it is just the most beautiful color that I don't even feel that I can describe properly. So at first glance, like, to me this leads brown, but like a purpley brown. So yeah, like it's very tonal, it's very lovely. It's reading, I feel, a little more like red purpley. My husband claims it's burgundy. I think he overheard me watching Skeindeer episodes a lot, and now like that's the only color he knows. Just kidding. But yeah, I just think it's absolutely gorgeous. I did look up the bird, because apparently a cormorant is a bird, and try to see where the color inspiration potentially came from. But I'm not sure if maybe it came from somewhere else, because the birds look to be jet black to me for the most part. But doesn't matter. I love it. It's a wonderful color. Pardon me. Okay. My next color is by Dragon Hoard Yarns. This is going to be my stripes. Pulling out this ball band that I saved this time. So what is the name of this color? All right, so this is her mitt sock, which is her version of 75/25 superwash merino nylon, and the colorway Mooneater. I know she does a lot of like references to like literary fantasy novels and things like that, so I'm not sure if this is a reference to something, but I really liked the color. It's kind of a lavender gray base with some like purpley brownie and russet speckles. It's really nice, and I think it pairs very well with my main color. So I'm very excited. The majority of this sweater, I believe, is comprised of short rows. I will link the pattern in the show notes, but if you've never seen the breathing space pullover, essentially from like here to here, it's like your normal sweater. So you knit that, divide for the sleeves, but then everything from like breastbone down is like sideways. It's asymmetrical, and the body of the sweater is like it's short on one side, long on the other, and I believe you use short rows to go back and forth and do stripes. So you'll have some like normal stripes up here, and then you'll have like the contrast of the diagonal stripes in the short rows. It's definitely not like anything I've made before. I actually had a sweater once that I purchased that had that same kind of asymmetrical like line like that, and I really loved it. So I'm excited to have this finished. Really wish I could have it finished for Rhinebeck, but that's okay. Them's the breaks. Hopefully I'll have Sweater Hug all cleaned up by then, and it'll be nice and warm on those chilly October days. All right, so that's it really for finished objects and works in progress. I don't have any stash acquisitions today. I didn't really purchase any yarn or anything lately. I'm trying to save myself for the New York Sheep and Wool Festival because I know I'm gonna want to buy things there. I'm also trying to knit down my stash a little bit. So I have several sweaters quantities that I'm trying to work through. Also a buttload of like fingering weight single skeins, because as a lot of people do, especially when they're a newer knitter and just discovering indie dyed yarn, I did a lot of, ooh, that's pretty, bye, ooh, that's pretty. So I'll turn the camera and maybe you can see. Those are my books. This is my stash here. So I've got those two cubbies. This one here is basically all of my fingering weight single skein yarns. This one here is a mixture of fingering weight and also random like DK skeins. And then with that bag down here, I've got like my rustic yarns is what I call them. So I have like some Rama over here, my woolly wools, and then over here is where I have my sweaters quantities. So I pulled a few things out and I'll talk about my sort of tentative plans for them. Oh God, I messed up the camera. Oh well, we're almost done here. So one of the next sweaters I hope to cast on is with my linen quill from Purl Soho. So this is a, what is it? 50% fine Highland wool, 35% alpaca, and 15% linen. It's pretty soft. It's not, like the linen in it doesn't really make it scratchy. The alpaca definitely gives it a nice little halo there. This is the colorway Dark Iris. At one point I was watching a lot of the Stress Knits podcast by Stacey Elstone, and if you have listened to her at all lately, she is really obsessed with the half and half triangles wrap, which is typically knit in the linen quill yarn. So I really wanted to know what all the rave was about. So of course, instead of just buying a skein and saying, oh, that's nice, I bought 5. So I originally intended to make some sort of like long cardigan with it, but I've been having trouble finding a pattern that I really like. I feel as though a lot of the cardigans I've found on Ravelry are like more fitted and with buttons, whereas I'm looking for something like a little bit more positive ease, open front, but like full sleeves, not like quarter sleeves with loose hanging, like smock like. And I know I could probably modify the sleeves for that, but I think I'd just rather follow a pattern sometimes. So something else I was thinking about was potentially doing a pullover with it instead. Maybe something with a little bit of color work. I have, speaking of stress knits, I have these skeins that I bought from her maybe a year ago called Copper Boom. And this is like a pinkish, coppery brown, sort of like terracotta color. It's the closest you will ever find me to using pink because it's not really a color that I gravitate towards. I thought maybe it would pair well with this. But then I also have a skein of hers called Dried Lavender, and I thought that maybe it would pair even better with this. There's a nice pullover that I've been wanting to make by Jennifer Skeindeer called, I think, Dark Waters, and it's got this nice almost like the color work. It's one thing up here and then it's like the inverse on the bottom, so it's almost like you have like tree motifs like reflecting like you would on dark water. It's really cool. I love her patterns so much. She also, I think, lives in Maine, so bonus for us. So yeah, I'm not really sure. If you know of any nice fingering weight open front flowy cardigan patterns, let me know. There was one by Isabell Kraemer that I was thinking about, but it's actually meant for sport weight. I don't remember off the top of my head what it is called. But I'll link it down below. But basically it's like a textured drop sleeve cardigan, some positive ease. I think the gauge was like 21 stitches per inch, so I could definitely swatch for it and see if it would be too loose on a fingering weight or not. I don't know. We'll see. You never know. Sometimes you'll get a yarn that when you block it, it kind of fills in the gaps, so the gauges you can use it at are more flexible, but I'm not entirely sure. We'll see. I'm sure I'll figure something out. The other sweaters quantity I have is by Megs Co. So I have 4 skeins of this balsam yarn. Is that what it's called? Yep, balsam. This is 75/25 again. I purchased this, I think, in like last year's holiday-ish update. It's a really beautiful tonal like pine green. For me, this is like my perfect green. It's even got a little bit of like those yellow spots in there. I love it so much. And I was thinking I definitely want to do some sort of pullover for this. I originally was thinking maybe cables, but some sort of textured or twisted stitch deal would probably be really nice as well. I just don't want to knit it stockinette because I feel like it would really shine with some sort of motif on it. So that's my green sweater, my to be determined green sweater. And then I have, how many of these do I have? 3. So I have Witch Hair by Shirsty Cat Designs, another 75/25 merino. I bought this at the Maine Fiber Frolic. She had a booth there, which was really cool because I've never seen her yarn in person, only on the internet. So this is a nice like tonal silvery gray. It's beautiful. I originally bought it to pair with this Surrey alpaca. This is Heart of the Forest. So I bought these to go together. I thought that I might make another love note since I accidentally felted my last one. Talk about being a shitty nitty launderer. But again, things happen and you can always make another. Yes, it takes time, but it's fine. It's okay. It's like child size now. So maybe one day if I ever have a child, they can have my old love note that has seen some things in the washer that it probably shouldn't have seen. Anyway, So I started swatching because then I was looking at other patterns where you hold fingering weight and suri together, and I was like, oh, the Diaphanous Raglan by Jessie Maed, that's also something that I've wanted to make. I think it's really cool, and it's got like 3 sleeve options. And yeah, I just like the way it looks, and I think it'd be really cool to make and to have. Sorry, I'm looking for the swatch. So I started swatching just to see how the two would look together. And this is what I came up with. Let me see. Okay. So I'm not good at pairing like mohair and normal yarns. Like, I've only done it once. And I can't tell when I look, like, for example, at 2 yarns, how they might look when they're marled together. So in my mind, I was hoping that the green would overtake the gray a little bit more, but it didn't. So I'm not sure how I feel about this. I mean, it's not terrible, but I don't know if I would love it for a sweater. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I feel as though the gray comes through as very patchy, and I'm not sure if I would enjoy wearing it. As a mustache, though, we might have something going on here. Yeah, just maybe some short rows to make a little goatee as well. Never know. Anyway, enough silliness. So, I'm not really sure. I could always pair this with a different yarn. I did unravel my peperomia, which I said I was going to last time. Where did I put it? Ah, here it is. Yeah. So here it is. I have a million blue balls now. Teal, not blue, you're right. And then my 1 skein of Back in the Pulse. Oh, I love this color so much. I really want to use it for something. So I thought that maybe these together? I'm not really sure though. I definitely have to swatch because I feel as though this might be too dark. Maybe if I got like a chartreusey type green, like this little splotch here. I don't know. If you have opinions, let me know. I'm not sure. I'm not good at this, but I'm learning. So that's what's important. But yeah, those are my plans for sweaters. And then I also purchased a while back, Magpie Fibers was doing like mystery sets of like some of their discontinued yarns. So I have these lovely 100% non-superwash Corriedale worsted weight, nest worsted, I think was the line. So I have 2 of each of these colors, and I'm not sure what to do with them. I have a total of 4 skeins. Each skein is 210 yards. So that gives me a little over 800 yards to do something with. I was thinking like some sort of really big squishy shawl, because I think that would be really nice for this coming winter. And I don't hate these colors. This one's definitely a lot lighter than I would probably pick, but the 2 together I think will be primo. Really nice. So I've been looking for 2-color shawl patterns or things that I could modify to be 2 colors. Most of what I've come up with have been where they don't use enough of the yarn, and I'm sure that I could just keep going, but I'd rather find something that's designed to use at least like 650 to 700 something yards, if not the full 800. So the search continues for that. The search continues for some sort of flowy open front cardigan, and the search continues for a use for these beautiful yarns here. Maybe something striped, maybe another breathing space, who knows. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. All right, so that is all that I have today. This one's gonna be a little bit shorter than last time, so maybe that's a good thing. Again, if you came back and sat with me for the second time, I really appreciate it more than you know. It's nice to see that I'm not just talking to myself, although I'm not opposed to that. I guess 2 weeks might be kind of my sweet spot. So I'm not promising anything, but look out for another one, potentially 2 weeks from now. And until then, stay well. Keep on knitting shitty if you want to. But remember, you're not bad at this. Mistakes happen. That's all I got. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye.